Hmm. So what you guys are looking at is the watch times of my recent octopus video. It has a lot of views, but people clicked off pretty early on. And here's one for the narwhal. And for the test animation. Huh. Actually, it's been a while since I changed the channel banner, and it's looking pretty bad. Also, these character sprites are looking a bit off too. She doesn't really express very well, and there are only 5 images, and the design is sort of creepy. Yep, new year, new channel aesthetic. Also, new computer and new model of my editing software. Speaking of which, there are some times when I was watching the footage back where I could see the mouse clicks, but I couldn't see what I was doing. This has happened before when I've been video editing, and it turned out fine when I've uploaded it. Granted, in those times it was temporary, and if I restarted the program it would play as normal, and this time it stayed consistent no matter what I did, or how I recorded it, or how I changed the settings. Hopefully this will sort itself out when I upload the video. But otherwise, that's what those weird sections are. I also did some random practice drawings which are completely unrelated to the project at hand, and which naturally were unaffected by what I'm going to call video corruption. I started by sketching over the original sprite drawings and then progressed into sketching over my sketch. My art style is usually pretty sharp and angular, but my face is naturally pretty round. This led to there being a few failed attempts at getting that first smile right. Once I switched to a more rounded mouth shape, it came together much better. I found it easier to work off that first sketch so that all of the models were the same size, which was a problem with the previous sprite sheets. I drew some clean line art over the sketch for Sprite 1, and then I tried out some new colors because I can't really help myself. I'm addicted to color and try to get it in as early in the process as possible. With the original, I made the skin my favorite color and the hair one of my other favorites. The problem was that it gave the design dark skin and light hair, which is disingenuous to how I actually look. I was starting to feel a bit weird about it, and so I swapped the colors around. I changed the eyes to gold because I don't actually like dark pink. I think I was at the tail end of a phase when I drew that, and it also contrasted with the teal well. With this one, I balanced the colors and values better, so I got the analogous/monotone colors to work without having to rely on contrasting colors or shading. With the original designs, I got them done without the shading with the intent of getting it done later. When later came, I lost the Photoshop documents that I had all the layers on and only had the flattened JPEGs. I had to put the shading over the whole thing, including the line art, which at first wasn't so bad, but it's really started to grate at me over time. When I drew the original images, I tended to guess at brush opacity. I'd manually pull the slider instead of typing in an exact number. This left some of the images with darker shading than others. I also had soft shading because I wanted more of a painterly style since I was already going over the line art. The way that I did it made some of the details get lost, such as the inside of the mouth, and I've been veering more into hard shading recently. This time around, I resolved to leave the new drawing as they are. I left most of the shading for the background. You possibly won't see me shading the background because that's one of the sections that didn't work right. You will or will not have seen me draw a color sketch version of the background and set up the perspective grid. I think this would be 3-point perspective. I had lines coming from 3 directions, but it is mostly 1-point perspective. I think figuring all that technical stuff out and drawing more backgrounds is one of my resolutions for the next year. I didn't look at the original library drawings when I drew this, but it wasn't really that complicated. It still isn't that complicated. I originally wanted there to be cat engravings on the end of the bookcases, like even from the first iteration of this design of the room, but one thing led to another and it didn't happen this go around. The ends of the bookcases are at an angle, and I don't know how to draw a flat image in perspective. Before I showcase the final sprite sheets, here are the test recordings that I made. The first one is of a character turnaround that I made over the holidays. I learned a lot about making the drawings consistent, and I also decided that when I do this again, I'll put each frame on its own group layer instead of having the line art in one group and the colors in another group. Oddly enough, that should be more organized than the crazy mess that I ended up with, where I think I lost a frame and I don't know how to get it back. Next, on the same recording, I showed all of the sprites without the background. There was a bit of a glitch on this, even though I wasn't drawing anything, where one of the images had a hole in the hair. I took a break, changed some more settings, and tried drawing for about an hour, because it consistently started glitching later into the recordings. I just drew a non-specific face. Sprite 1 was the most based on the original sprite images. She has her mouth open to talk and has one hand up to gesture. I had her looking away because she's deep in thought. Sprite 2 has a different hair configuration. There is no particular reason that the hair changes, but it does keep it interesting. This one was supposed to correlate with the sprite where she looks straight at the camera. Sprite 3 is the same drawing as 1, but without the hand. I didn't really organize these very well. Sprite 4 is one of a kind with different hair. The face is basically the same from Sprite 1, but with more confused eyebrows. Sprite 5 has the Sprite 2 hair, but with different eyebrows. I wanted more images with the mouth open. Sprite 6 and 6.5 have basically the same face as Sprite 5, but with smaller pupils. I let the crazy hair do most of the expressing. 6.5 is an alternative Sprite 6, but with colors that are closer to the ones that I have in real life. I do wear glasses, but glasses are frustrating to draw. I also naturally have 6 eyes, but this is fantasy, so I can have 2 eyes and not have holes in my cheekbones. Sprite 7 is Sprite 5, but with a slightly different mouth shape. Sprite 8 is the same face with a different hand. It is a very janky hand. I wasn't as familiar with the pose, and I have this weird mix of the palm and thumb being stylized and the fingers being more realistic yet at the wrong angle. That might just be me though. Anyway, it's good enough. Sprite 9 has the same hand and hair as Sprite 8, but with a different eye shape, that being with the eyes closed. I think that this is my favorite mouth shape. Changing these images from a Photoshop document to a JPEG randomly made the colors desaturated, so I'll probably go back and make them a bit more saturated. I also realized that I gauged the canvas size wrong. I did find where to look up the exact size while I was trying to fix the recordings, so I will go back and fix them, so here are the modified versions. On to the channel banner. I looked up the dimensions and drew the section that will most likely be seen separately. Then, to stick with tradition, I put it on the library background. I'm not sure if that is too repetitive, but you're likely not going to see much of the background unless you're on a TV, so it should work out. I really like this silhouetted cat with the foreground darker than the shadows. That is how cats' tails look when they yawn, but I might change it to better follow the line of action. I decided to rewrite the channel name. It looks different than the original channel banner, but not necessarily better or worse. I don't know if I still have that document. Next, I redrew my profile picture. Now, recently I watched this movie called Raggedy Ann and Andy's Musical Adventure, because apparently this TV show I watched called The Amazing Digital Circus references it a lot, and I had heard great things about the animation. For some reason in this movie, where the characters typically move in every frame, this shot of Andy really stuck out to me. It's just the face of a man about to get a pie to the face and regretting all of his life decisions. This image is just a screenshot, and the movie is up for free on YouTube, so I think this is fine, but I left this link in the description. I took my sprite drawing with the natural colors and the frizzy hair and changed it to look more like the image. I changed where the eyes were looking, and I changed the jaw shape. I sort of traced over the mouth. I kept the brush with pressure sensitivity instead of the one that maintained a consistent size, which made it look surprisingly different from the original image. For a bit here, I really tried to get someone holding a pie, and I worked really hard on it. I tried to make it look like a cat paw, as if Felix was the one about to hit me with the pie. I like the idea of a cat's library, and I wrote the whole story around the title, but with the first draft as I have it now, it makes no sense why Felix would be a cat. I think I forgot to explain that. Anyway, I worked really hard on the hand holding the pie, but eventually realized that profile images are usually seen from far away. So adding too many details or drawing too small would be detrimental, and so I made the head take up the whole image. Somewhere in the process, I used the distort setting on the head to make it wider. I added shading and highlights. I made them sort of messy so that it would fit the frizziness of the hair. The result was that the drawing looks like it was in the style of Quentin Blake, who was the guy who worked on the Roald Dahl books. I sort of love this drawing a lot. This is basically how I see myself being on the inside, and it's absolutely beautiful. I don't usually draw self-portraits because it seems self-absorbed, but this is great. And that's it. Yeah, I think that's everything. Happy New Year! Happy late New Year! I don't know what I want the next video to be, but it should be out sometime next week. Or not. I'll let you know if this video has a more successful intro. Actually, I won't. That's my business, and if this video doesn't do well, I'll go back to the old sprites. Joking. Bye!